Hello, I'm TheZOMBIEJ. It's time to talk about Hero Factory this time. Not as popular as Bionicle G1 was, but hey, it kept us busy until G2 came along. And then G2 was gone within 2 years. After 2 years. So Hero Factory, yeah, it lasted 5 years. 2010 to 2014, and then it was gone. Some people like to think that Invasion from Below was the best year. I completely disagree. Invasion from Below was the worst year, at least in terms of sets. Story was crap too, honestly. There was not even a proper episode. There was a YouTube upload of all the cutscenes, cinematics from the Invasion from Below game, edited together. That's as close as you're going to get to another episode. But to be honest, Brain Attack was the final episode. Episode 10. Hero Factory had 10 episodes. Technically. So when Hero Factory started back in 2010, it rose from the ashes of Bionicle G1 and also its subsequent Construction Evolution theme. Ben 10 Alien Force. Those sets were garbage. I have Chromostone, and he's crap. The Ben 10 sets are terrible. They have some useful parts, but beyond that, yeah. Nevertheless, the Ben 10 sets were an important step in the evolution of construction. Or so we would like to believe. Well, so was Hero Factory. Hero Factory, when it first started, had Bionicle-like parts, like the tentacles. Not tentacles. That was already used for the Baraki. But there was this weird tool weapon thing in lime green that was used for Corroder. He had 6 of them. And wow, that was kind of a cool piece. The heads, the masks, I guess you could say masks, for Corroder, for Thunder, for Meltdown, and for Explode. They look like Bionicle masks in a way, just a little cheesy in a way. I wasn't too much of a fan of these. However, you can simply turn the mask for or face, helmet thing, whatever, for Explode upside down and to the, and it can be used as a weird looking mask. I don't know, it's weird. Thunder's mask was more Hordika mask like. I mean, if you look at the Hordika themselves, you'll understand why that comparison is valid. And well, the villain sets, obviously you got Von Nebula, which had a much more interesting build than Tuma from Bionicle 2009. Some people prefer the Von Nebula build. I myself actually prefer the build myself, but I like the look of Tuma overall. Rotor, still a good Titan build, very Bionicle-like, but the problem was that fugly looking mask. You had no eye holes. They had eye holes, but they weren't. They were solid. They didn't cut out holes for the eyes. That was a poor decision on their part. Fuck you, Lego. And they had the audacity to reuse that mask in blue for Vapor in the Bulk versus Vapor set. Which, by the way, that version of Bulk, that's not Bulk. That is Thresher, let's be honest. Because Thresher, it had some kind of greenish armor instead of silver. Had both of those arms as guns. Yes, you can understand that reference to the blasters. Those blasters were both, well, one of them was Bulk, one of them was Stringer. And so you had both of these weapons being used for Thresher in the animation. Had an interesting story arc. Thresher was damaged, and yeah. Plus they had a jetpack on him for whatever reason. I don't know. The point is, some of the decisions for Hero Factory were kind of weird. But hey. The heroes themselves were not that great. In fact, at one point I wanted to take all 6 of them, dump them into a cardboard box, pour gasoline all over said cardboard box, and light it aflame. That's how I felt about the Hero Factory heroes, to be honest, and in retrospect, that was poor thinking on my end. So, in 2011, after the hype from the more Bionicle-esque builds died down, and the multimedia was kind of similar to Bionicles in a way, just not as good. It's not as good as Bionicles. It was kind of lame, to be honest. But hey. 2011, we saw 2.0 with 2 new heroes, Nex and Evo. And with this came new villains too. The Fire villains. I actually liked Fire Lord. I thought the set was pretty cool. Yeah, it has problems, but yeah. And the other 3 villains were actually pretty good too. They had problems as well, but hey, you can't avoid that. With this came CCBS, the new evolution of Construction, and which is buildable action figures as Lego. Because if you take a look at the beasts over there, the elemental beasts, those are Construction. Those were in G2. So, in 2011, we got 2 waves of Hero Factory. We got Ordeal of Fire, which I just talked about, and a brand new class of building style for the CCBS, and it brought about new creativity, and also brought loathe from purists who prefer the original Construction style of Slicers, Throwbots, Bionicle, etc. You can't please everybody, I mean, let's be honest. So, Ordeal of Fire was an interesting wave, to say the least. There was unique parts, there were double masks, you know, one side of the mask with the other side at the back, and you can flip between which one you want to use. They used that for all the villains for that wave, and this was kind of an interesting way to save on costs, but to be honest, felt a little cheap, to be honest. And yeah, so later in the year, we got the Savage Planet era, which we got one more hero, Raka, the gold guy. No, not the gold-skinned being. That's a Bionicle character, and yeah. Raka was interesting. This time in Savage Planet, you got these animalistic style things. I mean, obviously, you had sets like Scorpio, Raw Jaw, Waspix, and Fangs, which were all kind of animal-esque things. They were basically the Hero Factory equivalent of Rahi from Bionicle. And it was kind of cool. I liked those sets. I never got Raw Jaw until last year. So, sitting on the shelf, missing one piece, still. What really sold it for me in terms of Savage Planet with its sets was Witch Doctor. Big fucking Titan guy. It was the biggest CCBS Titan until we got General Grievous from the first wave of Star Wars CCBS sets. So that was cool. Witch Doctor is a fantastic build. A little bit hollow in the torso, but that can easily be fixed. You can also give him a dick if you wanted to. There was also the Raka XL set, which looked pretty cool, actually. It had the return of the Voodoo Ball piece from early Bionicle. And this was a pretty cool set, actually. Had a lot of spikes, a lot of interesting tribal-esque feel to it. Kind of reminds me of Bionicle in a way, early Bionicle. And it's just nice to see Rocka XL on the shelf, looking pretty fucking cool. I was glad I was able to rebuild him. And, yeah. Then the heroes, you had, well, the 6 heroes were, you know, they had new armor and weapons. They were each based on a animal. For Rocka, you had the lion. For Inferno, you had the eagle, etc., etc. So 2011 was pretty damn good. Then came, I mean, the story was still kind of shit, but yeah. Then came Breakout in 2012, and it was divided into 2 parts. We got 9 heroes, all 9 heroes in their Breakout form, divided between the first and second half of 2012. We also got 9 villains to go along with them. But they were not all used in the fucking animation! Lego! That's not okay. You don't release 9 heroes and 9 villains and don't even use half of them. Well, maybe a little more than half. I don't know. Point is, yes, there were so much missed opportunities with Breakout. It could have been a massive 4-episode sort of thing, or even a full-length movie, if you had all 9 heroes and all 9 villains. I mean, seriously, this is bullshit, and I made a video on this before, so. With that, Breakout was divided into 2 episodes, and we got Cryo Shell! Cryo Shell came back with the song Breakout for the Hero Factory episode. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I like that song. It's great. Featured Tyne Midgard instead of Christine Lorentzen, because she was having a child at the point. And so, there you go. They also released in 2013, I think, a remix of Gravity Hurts, but it's more of a re-recording with different instrumentals and whatnot. And obviously Tyne Midgard is part of that too. The Breakout heroes were interesting for the most part. There were some good builds. The jokes about Stormer XL are cringe, let's be honest. But hey, it was a meme of a set. Still a good set, for the most part, I guess. In fact, I rebuilt his sword at one point, and the sword is just this. It's nothing too special, but hey, it's cool, I guess. And the villains, well, the villains were few and far between. You had Core Hunter, which was the serial killer, basically. He kills heroes and takes their cores. Wow, that's brutal. Brutal. That was pretty cool, to be honest. One of my favorite Hero Factory characters. Even though he was not used! Except in a book! That doesn't make any difference. Would have been cool to see how they did Core Hunter with the animations from the Breakout, you know, episodes. But they didn't do that. So, whatever. He even had another motorcycle with a character named Speed-a-Demon. And the samurai swords, the katanas, in gold, were pretty damn cool. The motorcycle was cool. I mean, I liked Furno's motorcycle from the first wave of Hero Factory sets better because it looked more motorcycle-like, despite the fact that it had blasters and thrusters on it. But, hey, it was cool. A little hollow on the inside. Could have built an engine to go in there, but they were trying to save on costs, I guess. So 2013 was the last definitive wave for me. You got heroes. You got 7 heroes total, divided into the first half of the year and the second half of the year, basically, 2013. Then you had some villains to go along with it, plus a bonus, Jet Rocka. The jetpack is pretty cool. The Raka that came with that set is garbage. I mean, the parts are still useful, but if you turn Raka around, you see emptiness. You see nothing. Just the skeletal torso, body thing. There's nothing there. They totally fucked Raka, and it's not okay. Wow. What did you do, Lego? I'll tell you what they did. They cut on costs. They totally skimped around when it came to designing Raka for the Jet set. Jet Raka, sorry. And yeah, that version of Raka sucks. I prefer the actual set that we got, the $10 set from the first wave. And you know what? The beast creatures with the evil brains on their heads possessing them, those brains were kind of weird, but hey. The creatures themselves were pretty cool. Pyrox was a literal fucking demon, and you gotta appreciate that. I mean, when LEGO is able to release a set that looks like a fucking demon from hell, I mean, come on, it's just pretty cool. I mean, yeah, and then there's a Yeti-looking creature with a sword-like weapon. It's called Frost Beast, I think. And that's probably my second favorite of the beasts. You had Bruiser, which was a stone-like character with a big fist. No fisting jokes, please. It also has Scarox, which was a spider at one point, but it was mutated, grew legs instead of spider legs, and the other 4 arms are just the other 4 arms. You know. It's kind of a funny character, interesting. You also had Aquagon, a fish-like cretin that grew legs and has a double sword weapon. You also had Dragon Bolt, which had a cool function that you can press on its back and make it flap its wings. Dragon Bolt was pretty cool. I had 2 of it at one point. I'm not going to rebuild the second one. A, I don't have the brain that goes with it, and 2, I just don't have the patience to deal with that because I'm better off with just the one I have. It was hard enough trying to source the parts in my collection in these plastic drawers. But yeah. So there was other sets, and I apologize if you hear dogs barking. Yeah. There were other creature sets, I think, I can't remember now. When it comes to the heroes, Furno XL was another meme of a set, I know, but it's also a pretty good set. This is the first time we got a hero factory set with a cape. Yes, a cape. At one point I had 3 of this set and 3 Pyrox. For reasons, parts. It was fucking just great, I had 2 Breeze. 2 copies of Breeze. Breeze is my favorite Hero Factory character. And her Rain Attack variant is probably my favorite version of Breeze. Even though the Breakout version, albeit not used in the animation, was pretty good too. She had thrusters on her ankles, which was kind of funny and weird. There was a gimmick with Breakout, and that's with the cuffs that they use the chains for. Interesting. The Brain Attack, the gimmick was the brains, the evil brains, which are just massive rubbery shit with plastic injected into it. And there you go. So the heroes was Surge was probably the best version of Surge. He had wings, he had flick fire missiles, he had an electric blaster thing. You also saw Evo, which had a staff that can expand like that and whatnot. I'm still missing a yellow spike barb thing that probably lost to time now. You also saw Bulk, who had a shield, Rocca had a shield as well, a little bit more stylized, and you know what, so did Breeze, but Breeze had a saw blade shield. She had a pretty cool weapon as well. Furno had a pretty awesome sword, and also a fire shield with the Hero Factory H logo. And what's his name? Stormer also had a pretty cool sword. He also had flick fire missiles attached to his back, and he had a small little shield thing, which Frost Shield looked kind of cool. What else was there? Rocca had a sword, just a basic sword, nothing special. But I liked the frosted greenish color of it. And, yeah, so Brain Attack being probably the best wave of the best year for Hero Factory, in my opinion. And when it comes to Invasion from Below, no, nowhere near. In fact, it's the rest. It's the worst. It's the worst Hero Factory year because the minifigs look like absolute garbage. You can't shrink a hero down to minifig level and expect to be taken seriously. It just doesn't work. It looks like crap. The helmets look like crap. I can't understand why anyone would like this year of Hero Factory 2014. Yes, it was the final year. Doesn't make it a good year. The mechs were crap. Except for the big Evo mech, which was actually pretty damn cool for the most part. But it had flaws. All the mechs that the heroes used had flaws. Severe flaws that almost made me not want to purchase any of the sets. And I never got any of the sets because I didn't care. I didn't care enough because Brain Attack was the end of Hero Factory for me. The true end was actually Invasion from Below, but I mean, we all know this, but still. Invasion from Below really fucked up when it came to the game. I didn't play the game and I don't care to. But when it came to the cinematics from the game, they obviously were done by Threshold because they were doing the other Hero Factory episodes. They swapped around voices. I mean, Breeze still had her voice, which was fine, but you also... Furno had the wrong voice. Stormer also had the wrong voice. What the fuck? Why would you do that? That's just wrong. Be consistent, LEGO. Story-wise, Hero Factory from 2010 to 2014 was few and far between. It was not that great. It was more catered towards the new generation of kids at the time of 2010 to 2014. And if you grew up with Hero Factory, hey, more power to you. But for me, Hero Factory was... It had its own legacy, sure. A little bit mediocre, to say the least, but... at least it sold well enough to finish its 5-year run. It lasted half the time that G1 lasted. And G2 was less than half than that. Wow. Hero Factory's multimedia was interesting. I mean, I had a pamphlet sort of book information thing that came with a copy of Lego Club magazine. I don't know whatever happened to that. I gave it to my sister, and I think she got rid of it, which was, you know, fine. I could get another copy of it off of eBay or something. But the commercials were shit. I mean, the advertising for Hero Factory was kind of weird and strange. I mean, you had Mac Megahertz for the Hero Factory FM, which I did a video on that. Go watch that, if you will. It's, yeah. It was, the Hero Factory FM was just a joke of a podcast. The TV show for Hero Factory, mediocre at best. It will give you some laughs. You will laugh your ass off, to some degree. But the jokes are just kind of shit, and the voice acting is few and far between. There's better work that LEGO has done with Bionicle with the movies. So, the games for Hero Factory, they weren't that great. I did not like any of the games that they released for Hero Factory. There was books too. There were books, there were comics. I have a couple of comics, I think. But the actual novels, I never read the novels because I didn't care enough. The novels were not to my satisfaction anyway. I would rather read the Bionicle G1 novels. And I even read the Bionicle G2 novels, which I do have, all three of them. And let me tell you, Ryder Windham is better at writing Star Wars and Indiana Jones books. So, sorry, Ryder. Yeah, you don't do Bionicle that well. I apologize to Ryder Windham and his fans, but still, it's the truth. Bionicle is better handled with Greg Farshtey. At least it was until he, stopped writing the serials in 2011, because I assume that, well, he had another baby at one point, and he had to deal with family matters, and he never came back to the story of Bionicle G1, so it left on cliffhangers, which is bullshit. So the books weren't the books and the games weren't worth my time, so I just didn't bother. The comics that I got, I think it was only 1 or 2 comics, and that's it. I mean, I didn't care about those either. They were trying, Hero Factory was really trying to compete as a Bionicle follow-up, as a Bionicle sort of successor, and it was, but it wasn't as good. So the multimedia for Hero Factory was pretty much pointless at that point, because it was never going to hold a candle to anything that Bionicle G1 gave us. There was going to be a live-action movie. That went in development hell, and it never came back to the surface. I imagine Lego eventually got tired of the idea of a live-action Hero Factory movie, so they just kind of dropped it. And, yeah, so. Also, when it came to the Bionicle serials, Alexa, stop. When it came to the Bionicle serials, after the cliffhanger and after Greg Farshtey sort of left off for a while, I wonder if Lego had something to do with that. I wonder if Lego sort of told him to stop with the serials so that they can bring Bionicle G2 to the surface. Sounds like something they would do. Honestly. Well, so, in all essence, Hero Factory wasn't that great. Sure, it was an important step in the evolution of construction, and we got CCBS, so at the end of the day, Hero Factory was, again, it was an important step in the evolution of construction. It was a theme that was beloved by some, not all. But also the detractors for Hero Factory kind of were probably Bionicle elitists, let's be honest. And as a fan of Bionicle, I used to think that Hero Factory was stupid. But then I grew to appreciate its legacy and what it was able to do for construction. And overall, still wasn't great. I mean, it had its flaws, it had its drawbacks, it had its mishaps. It was mediocre at best. And there was no way anyone could sort of fathom the idea of Bionicle being replaced with something completely inferior. Because that's what Hero Factory was. It was inferior to Bionicle G1. And yet some people even believe that it's better than G1? What the fuck is wrong with you? Go read the Bionicle books. Go read the comics. Go watch the movies. Go watch the animations. Yeah, have fun with that. The point is, Hero Factory wasn't great, but at least it gave us something to be excited about until G2 came along for the 2 years that it was given. I believe Bionicle G2 was only planned for 2 years, because that's how LEGO was probably seeing it. It was only going to last 2 years. It wasn't going to be given a third year, because the budget was slashed, and those funds were poured over into the Star Wars CCBS sets. Because that's exactly what happened, at least I believe it is. And if LEGO denies it, they're wrong. Let's be honest. Companies tend to lie, and LEGO is no stranger to that, I think. So Hero Factory Invasion from Below was garbage. It wasn't great. And the fans of Hero Factory, well, some of them like to defend Hero Factory for being, you know, good, at least. But you still have to agree that it's not as good as Bionicle. It's better than Bionicle G2, let's be honest. And overall, well, there's nothing else I could say, but what I've already said already. Hero Factory doesn't suck anymore. It doesn't suck as much as we thought it did back then. But overall, I mean, it's just another LEGO theme at this point. It lasted its 5 years. It left after 2014. It gave us CCBS. And it provided people with their own sort of Bionicle, even if they didn't grow up with Bionicle G1. Even if they didn't come around quick enough to experience 2009 or 2010 Bionicle. So, in all essence, Hero Factory was needed. It needed to be a thing. It needed to exist. So anyone who thinks it didn't need to exist because it's crap, well, you're wrong. Hero Factory was an important step in the evolution of construction, in the evolution of, you know, buildable Lego action figures. And, you know, we got CCBS Legends of Chima sets. Obviously, we didn't get the 2014 sets over here, but that's a whole other story. And the Star Wars CCBS sets came around too, until 2018 when the final wave was released. And there was also Marvel and DC superheroes and supervillains, because there was the Joker. So yeah, CCBS was important, and still is. People still build with it, even though the plastic still breaks. That's just something that LEGO can't 100% control, because the plastic, it's going to break regardless. So, Hero Factory wasn't great, but it was great for those who actually enjoyed it 100%. And that's something to be respected, because, you know, why shouldn't the people who grew up with Hero Factory have why shouldn't they experience something that was more near and dear to them as Bionicle was near and dear to us? It just makes sense, okay? So, in retrospect, Hero Factory wasn't trash. It wasn't shit. It wasn't garbage. It was a necessary step that LEGO had to take so they can give us G2 in 2015 and 2016. And for this we are grateful. So, hats off to them. That's it for this video. Obviously I have to edit these two segments together, but I can do that on the camera. I don't have editing software, and I don't want editing software. I will have a video out for y'all tomorrow, and yeah. Stay tuned for more videos. I am TheZOMBIEJ. I'll see you folks later. Have a good fucking day, and peace.